everybody, welcome back to our little tarot corner. Allie from Toe Tarot here with a super snuggly, warm, wintry tag. I am here to do the hashtag that was created by Amidst the Grey. I'll link the original video below. I actually saw it on Logan from Larkin Legends channel originally, but I went back and watched Amidst the Grey's video, and it is hashtag Coffeehouse decks. So this is a tag. There are 13 prompts, and each prompt represents a certain style of coffee that you would find in a coffee house, hence the name, and kind of the characteristics that go with different coffee drinks. I don't know how the weather is where you all are right now, but here today it is in the negatives, it is snowing, it is disgusting. So there is absolutely nothing going on in this house except watching TV and tarot tube, playing on the Switch, and drinking coffee. So I decided that I would jump on in. So the first tag is, or the first prompt rather, is the Espresso shot. So this is a deck that is strong, punchy, and gets straight to the point. Now, this deck is a deck that I've mentioned before, but I decided to break out my mini for this. This is my Bohemian Gothic Tarot by Baba Studios. Now, I chose the mini rather than my full size because I felt like it fit more in the shot category rather than full size, but I've talked about it before. These are the backs, kind of super shiny, sorry about that. But this is a deck that is very, very to the point for me. It does not mince words. It does not really care about feelings. It will just read me to filth or read whoever I happen to be reading for to filth. There is not much room for feeling with this deck, but sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes you just need to get this message, and this deck does not play around. Again, unfortunately, the Bohemian Gothic Tarot is a deck that is currently out of print, but there is plans to reprint. I think the last update that I saw said sometime in 2023, so we do have that to look forward to, but that is my Espresso shot, my little mini Bohemian Gothic Tarot by Baba Studios. Now, the second prompt is the Drip, and that is a deck that is simple, accessible, and gets the job done. For that one, I've chosen my Narrative Alchemy Tarot by Chrissy Bentley. This deck, I've also showed this one before, is so wonderful. It came in this wrap that matches the backs of the cards. So that's lovely. And you get a title card, Narrative Alchemy Tarot. But this deck, first of all, it's on linen cardstock, which is delicious. And it definitely plays into a lot of different things. You can use it as, let's zoom in a little. You can use it as an oracle. You can use it obviously as a tarot. You can use it for color magic. There's so much that you can use this deck for. The major arcana have just the Roman numerals at the bottom and a keyword across the top. And the suits have the element symbol with the number in front of it. So like this would be, excuse me, this would be the Three of Cups or Community. And then real quick, if you spread it all out, it's very colorful, but it all kind of flows together, the writing does. But each card is just a single keyword that Chrissy has come up with for each card, and I just love this deck. Like Mystery for the Moon, Rumination for the Nine of Swords, yes. Takes me a second sometimes. Inspiration for the Ace of Swords. So you can see it's a very smart deck, and it certainly does get the job done. It gives you keywords. You can go off of what you know just by the symbols at the bottom. Again, you can use it by color to do chakra readings, which Chrissy does. You can use it as just an oracle. I've laid them out and had tarot cards beneath them for places in a spread. So there's multiple ways to use this deck, and I think it's just perfect. But that is my drip coffee, a coffee that is simple, accessible, and gets the job done. I will say, I think right now this is out of print, but I'm pretty sure that Chrissy plans to reprint again sometime soon. I don't remember whether or not she said she was going to maybe revise a couple of the cards. I'm not positive, but for now, I very much enjoy my time with the sweet Narrative Alchemy Tarot. The third prompt is the Pour Over, and that is a deck that you need to take your time with, but it's worth it. And for me, this is a newer deck in my collection, but it's one that's been floating around a little bit. This is the Ritual Tarot by Tira May. And if you've watched, my goodness, excuse me, cannot get rid of this tickle in my throat. If you've watched any walkthroughs of this deck, you will know, these are the backs, so beautiful. You will know that this version does not have keywords on it. It is a collage deck, and I still have mine in order because I'm kind of still working with it, but this deck does not have titles on it, and she is coming out with an edition that will have titles on it. I don't know that I'm going to go for that version. I think I just want to become familiar enough with the cards to be able to use it. Like here, obviously you can tell this is the Emperor card with all the red and the rams, you know, symbol of Aries and Mars, and then the figure down on the throne. So there is enough symbolism in each card to kind of understand which cards they are, but sometimes it takes a little bit to get there, and you've got to kind of work with it slowly. What a beautiful Lover's card. I have to say, this is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. Let me show you some minors too. But yeah, this deck is incredible. I like to go slow with it just because I like taking the time and really listening to what she has to say. And I think it's just absolutely stunning. It's so pleasing to look at. And you'll see here again, we have your 8 of Wands, or your 8 of Spears. It's traditional. It's a more traditional RWS depiction. So again, there's enough to go on, but yeah. And then the cup suit. It's truly beautiful. The guidebook that comes with the deck does show images of each card. Now we're in the swords. Oh, I love this Ace of Swords. Can we just talk about that for a second? Look at that. I lost my train of thought, but look at that Queen of Swords. She's perfect. And then the Pentacles. Yeah. Anyway, I like to go slowly with this deck and really take my time, and it is not a deck that I want to rush. I don't know if I will pick up the keyword version when it's released, just because I like mine, but I also wouldn't want to write on it, so I suppose come the time, I may be persuaded. I don't know. But anyway, the Ritual Tarot is my pour over deck. The next tag is prompt. Goodness gracious. Sorry. The next prompt is the Cafe Latte, and that's a deck that is well received and highly palatable. For this prompt, I chose the Superlunaris Tarot. I see a lot of people talk about this deck. I really don't see many people not liking it at all. And I feel like it's another one of those decks that, again, the words "get the job done" comes to mind, even though it's so much more than that. I have had all the versions of this deck, from the first edition to the second edition to now this is their linen edition. I rehomed my other ones, and I've shown this deck before. But I feel like this deck is pretty well liked by everybody. I mean, it's kind of hard not to love this deck. in my opinion. And especially now that this version is on linen, it's amazing. But everybody that I've read with this for, or everybody that I have showed this deck to, they've all enjoyed it. There really hasn't been anybody who didn't like it. And I just think that that speaks to the incredible creators of the deck, who were able to bring this project to life and really make something that's so usable and versatile and welcoming. It was a deck that I was able to read right out of the box because, again, you do have traditional RWS inspired imagery. And so it comes with a little fold out little white book, but I've found that I've never needed it with this deck. It's a great reader. It's easy to work with. It's beautiful to look at. I love this Four of Swords. So every time I decide to flip through the deck, it just makes me happy. And I don't read with it as often as I should. And it's kind of a tragedy. I used to read with it a lot more than I do now. Just, the nature of collecting and getting different decks. So, but yeah, that is the Super Lunaris Tarot coming in as my Cafe Latte deck. Now the next deck is the Cappuccino. And that's a deck that is classic, sophisticated, and maybe a little bit fussy. That to me screams Pagan of the Worlds by Uzi. Now, I love this deck. It's another deck that, again, is so well beloved and revered in the community, and it's not hard to see why. The imagery is absolutely mind-blowingly gorgeous. It does come with extra moon phase cards, but I do not tend to keep those in mine. Yeah. I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful. It's another one of those decks that everybody raves about, and I've been very, very glad to have it in my collection. It is fussy in that it is a tiny bit taller than your standard tarot deck, and it is also on this slippery linen cardstock by Uzi. So when I tend to shuffle it, sometimes they just fly everywhere. Yeah. And then another reason why I feel like some people might see it as fussy is that they've got pippish minors, meaning they are a little bit scenic. They've got a little bit of something to point you towards the meaning of the card, but obviously the object is front and center. So you do have the classic Four Swords here, but then you've got a home way back here in the distance to kind of point you in the direction of that mental rest and that place of safety and taking a time out and respite and or respite rather, and taking a rest. So some people might not like that they're more pippish. Some people don't like that there's kind of a mix of almost like medieval with a little bit modern, but again, I literally consider it fussy just because of the cardstock and the fact that when you shuffle this deck, it gets a little unwieldy. Dawn Michelle at Boho Tarot did a mod where she took either the top or the bottom off of the card. Like, for instance, I would take the bottom of this card off to leave the Roman numeral 10, but then on my court card, the Knight of Wands, I would cut the top off to leave the title. So you would still have a title, whether on front or top or bottom, and the backs, it really wouldn't make too much of a difference. I mean, it would probably alter it a little bit, but, not unless you look super closely. But I have considered that, and she didn't specifically state having any issues with her mod when she did it on her channel. And of course, like all her mods that she does, it turned out absolutely beautiful. So I have considered that, just making it a little shorter to handle, but that is a lot of time to spend, and I don't know that I care to right now. So it's a little bit fussy, but again, kind of finer art, in my opinion. A little more grown up, sophisticated, very well revered as a classic, but a little bit fussy. That's my Cappuccino deck, The Pagan Otherworlds by Uzi. Next deck is our Mocha, a deck that is rich, indulgent, and a bit extra. That, my friends, is a deck that I just recently got from a purchase on eBay. I didn't totally realize what I would be getting, which that's kind of on me. We're gonna have to zoom way out for this one. So, that's the Tarot of Prague. And I've got decks falling. That's fun. Where to go? Oh, here. Yeah. Tarot of Prague by Baba Studios. I knew that I was buying the 2016, I want to say, version of this deck that had the box and all of that. And I knew that the deck was going to be still sealed inside. I did not, however, know that it was the large version. So the classic cards are maybe a little bit bigger than the little white books. And this deck, I'm going to get it out of the way of the camera so that I don't hurt it. This deck is so much larger than their little white book. So a Baba Studios card might go a little bit further than their little white book, you know, maybe to here. So you can imagine. I would show you compared to my face, but I'm not turning the camera around. But it is numbered, and it's the special edition. So I've got 860 out of 900. Again, it came sealed to me. If this doesn't scream indulgent, I don't know what does. But you've got the beautiful silver gilding. I'm still trying to work out how to shuffle this deck, to be completely honest. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I will need to side shuffle it, which I have hurt my finger this week, and it hurts quite a bit. I've been wearing a splint, but I'm not right now, so that I don't look awkward. But so I can't really show you shuffling, but oh, this deck, just like any other Baba Studios deck, this edition has the cold stamping on it. You can kind of see, and the artwork is nothing if not incredible and decadent. And I am so, so grateful to have this in my collection. I do want to show you a detail on this High Priestess card. So her curtain is made up of cold foil. So you can see it, but then it shines. I don't know why. I just think that's really cool on that card and that piece of the scenery specifically. I don't know why. But yeah, this deck, highly indulgent. And very extra in that it is freaking massive. But just like any other Baba Studios deck, the quality is there. The quality of the art, the quality of the production, the box that it came in, it's all delicious. There are a couple of extra cards. You could choose a different Lover's card and a different Death card. So I chose this card, obviously. This is, honestly, I feel like this is kind of a funky deck too. It's not exactly Baba Studios' typical deck. I feel like it's a little bit mismatched in like the best way possible. Like, here's a good example. So this figure, beautifully drawn all in color on top of a black and white elephant set against this beautiful backdrop. Like, it doesn't fit, but it does. And that's why it's amazing. So yeah, again, unfortunately, this is one that is out of print, so we will stop looking at it. But that, if that doesn't scream Mocha, I don't know what does. But this is the Tarot of Prague by Baba Studios. The next prompt is the Cortado, which is a deck that's balanced and objective. For that prompt, I had very little trouble deciding on a deck. And I ended up choosing the Tarot Grand Lux by Ciro Marchetti. This is my only Ciro Marchetti deck. I did have Legacy of the Divine at one point, but I decided to rehome that one, and I've had this one ever since. So the thing about this deck, first of all, I love the backs, is that it is such cool artwork. I love the way Ciro illustrates his decks, how it's computer generated, but it feels real world, if that makes sense. Like, it seems almost like you're looking at photographs of real people. So it definitely has a very, very good element of realism, for lack of a better term. I'm not an art person, I don't know, but that's just kind of how I feel with it. It just feels, real. It feels like you are truly seeing these people in these scenes. It's not cartoony. It's not, it doesn't feel illustrated. And yes, I know that it is digital art, but still, it doesn't, yeah. And the thing about this deck too is it's never been emotional for me, ever. I don't get any sort of emotional pull or tug or really any kind of indication at a sort of personality for this deck. It just is a straightforward reader. It's like a deck that wears a mask. You don't really know what's underneath it. Not that that's a bad thing, but it doesn't really let you in too much. And I know some people definitely experience this deck probably a whole different way than I do. But I just don't feel, I don't get the warm fuzzies. I don't get the distinct characteristics or personality traits, I guess you could say, with this deck. It just is a reader for me. And that's valuable to have, I think. It doesn't get overly complicated with emotions. It just tells me what I need to know. So I feel like that's pretty great. It is balanced. It doesn't, get too emotional. It just does its job. So that is my Cortado deck, the Tarot Grand Lux by Ciro Marchetti. The next deck is the Panna. And I'd never heard of that drink, to be honest, but that is a deck that puts you in your place, but with a hint of sweetness. Now, for me, that is my Pythonic Tarot. Reason being, I feel like, here are the backs, I feel like this deck is very much so Kali-like, in that it's tough love, but emphasis on both the tough and the love. My readings with this deck tend to be kind of like a tough older sister or a tough mother. You know that they love you beyond all reason, but they're not necessarily here to be your best friend. They do love you and they want what's best for you, but because of that, they're not going to sugarcoat and they're not going to take it easy on you just so it's easier to digest or swallow. So this deck and I have had some pretty deep conversations, to be honest, and I love it every single time. It's a very enlightening deck. And she does call me out a whole lot. That's like one of her favorite things to do, actually, when we do readings. But it's kind of like the nature of Kali. She's a personified tower card, in my opinion, meaning she will tear you down, but it's because you are meant to be built so much better. And in order to get to that place where you are all that you can be, where you are the ultimate version of yourself that can be realized in this particular lifetime, in order to do that, you've got to break it all down and start over sometimes. So it is definitely tough love. and it is putting you in your place, but also it's kind of a deck that calls on you to take pride in who you are, in your own nature, and it sees you for who you are. So in that way, it is a sweet deck as well. So I adore this deck. It's a tough love deck, but it's amazing. And that is the Pythonic Tarot, my Panna deck. Now the next deck, pretty much in the complete opposite direction in my opinion, is the Chai Latte deck, a deck that is warm, cozy, and nurturing. This is 100% a Don Michelle Made Me Want It deck, and unfortunately it is also an out-of-print deck. This is also the second copy of this deck that I own, because the first time I purchased it from someone, and the deck was not in as good condition as I was led to believe. So I do still have it. I've considered just rehoming it to someone who maybe wouldn't mind the wear on that copy, but who is completely aware of of the condition of it. But I ultimately ended up finding one that was essentially brand new and not really read with. So I'm sure if you've watched TarotTube for any amount of time, you've probably seen this deck. It's a Doreen Virtue deck. I know how everybody feels about her. I do have a couple of her decks just because she did make some good ones in my opinion. So take that for what you will. This deck is like a hug from grandma. You've got wallpapers, you've got angels, you've got florals, you've got lace, and you've got inspirational messages, or, you know, just comforting messages on each of the cards. It can almost be read more like an oracle, and sometimes that is kind of how I use it. I'll just pick a card or two before bed and kind of reflect on my day, and it's definitely a very comforting deck that sends me to bed with a metaphorical chai latte in hand, you know? Kind of soothes the burns sometimes, soothes the roughness of a day. Again, I know this is definitely not everybody's cup of tea. I just really enjoy it though. I think the art style is actually really cool, and I think that the kind of wallpapers on the background are beautiful, and I love that you do have, again, the ability to read it as a tarot or just take the messages at the bottom of the cards and use it as an oracle. So in that way, it's also completely usable. But again, this deck is out of print, so... But this is my Chai Latte deck. That is the Guardian Angel Tarot by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. Again, with that other copy, if you would like it, I would probably only request for cost for shipping, so feel free to leave a comment or send me a message on Instagram. Let me know. I'm happy to send it your way. But yeah. Okay. Next prompt is the Matcha Latte. This is a deck that is an acquired taste or a bit unconventional. And this is another deck that I've showed once. I think this is my Anatomized Oracle by Bethan Hamilton. This was a Kickstarter that I backed in addition to my Monochromatica Tarot. And the reason why I believe that this deck is definitely an acquired taste is because, here's the backs, as the name suggests, it is all anatomy. I, as a nurse, and as a nurse in the operating room, more specifically, eat this stuff up. This is literally my everyday world. These are the things that I see, that I interact with, that I think about, that I work with every day. So, of course, I love it. Very much. The messages in the little guidebook are really, really great. And I think it's got a lot of wonderful things to say. And I really appreciate that she's taken the time to actually kind of think about the meanings of the anatomical systems and the functions and kind of tie that into some messages. Like the gallbladder, for instance. Let's see if I can find it. So she's got it broken up in the musculoskeletal, the digestive and urinary, the cardiovascular respiratory, the nervous system, the immune system, the endocrine and reproductive system. So she's got it all broken down. But for the gallbladder, our keywords are surprise, shock, indecisiveness, and apprehension. Now, that is very, very true of the gallbladder because pretty much one of the bread and butter surgeries that we do is cholecystectomies, or removal of the gallbladder. And gallbladders do tend to get inflamed and angry and fill up with gallstones, and that's why we remove them, right? So the keywords are very apt in this deck. See what I mean? It's niche. It works for those who are into these sorts of things, and that is me. So that is my Matcha Latte, my Anatomize Oracle by Bethan Hamilton. Now for the next one, we have Hot Chocolate, and that is a deck that speaks to a younger version of yourself. And for me, that would be my That's So 90s Tarot. I know I've showed this one here as well. I did a walkthrough of it. If you're interested, feel free to hop back up in my playlist or in my channel, my videos. It even comes in a cool backpack. This is a deck that is made. Sorry, my dog's going nuts. Coda, buddy. Anyway, it's made by Divine Moon Empress on Etsy. Comes in a cool backpack that's so 90s, and this deck is everything nostalgia to me. These are the backs. The cardstock is glossy and easy to shuffle. I love it. Everything about this deck screams 90s. So when I need a little nostalgia, when I need a little comfort, when I need a little bit of remembering the good old days, I use this deck. The suits are Pogs for Pentacles. The sword is a sword from Power Rangers, if I remember correctly. And like Aunt Viv for the Empress from the Fresh Prince. That's perfect. And you've got Dexter for the Ace of Swords. Uncle Phil for the King of Swords. That definitely works. So yeah, this deck just reminds me of childhood. It reminds me of everything or most things that I was into. I never watched Dawson's Creek, but I understand the concept. So maybe not literally everything, but most of these things, like the print on the cups. I mean, come on. And Danny Tanner is the King of Cups. It fits. It fits. It's a fun deck, and it just helps me simplify things. Maybe when I'm having kind of a rough day, when I just need to have a little bit of fun and smile and remember what it was like to be a kid growing up with all the bright colors and the fun stuff. The wands were these little twirling baton sticks, and fruit stripes is the Two of Wands. That's kind of perfect. I know. Yeah, we've showed all the suits. Okay. Like the star for Tamagotchis, because you had to pray that you could keep these little shits alive. Apt. So, yeah. Anyway, I love this deck so much. It just brings me back to being a kid and how simple life was. So that is my Hot Chocolate deck, the That's So 90s Tarot. The next deck is number 12, and it is the Italian Soda, a deck that is fun, low-key, and not overly serious. This is a deck that's kind of been making the rounds as of late. It is the the Tarot of Curious Creatures by Chris Ann. This is the same creator as the Light Seers Tarot and the Sacred Creators Oracle, and I absolutely love this deck. This, again, is a deck that I go to when I don't want to worry about taking things too seriously, when I just want to maybe have a good chuckle and enjoy a reading. This is completely anthropomorphized animals, and It's just funny. It's just funny. And I do have some animal decks. Like, look at that. It's a sloth and it's sleeping. Come on. A vulture for death. How apt. But yeah, so this deck is just one that it's just fun. It's fun. It takes the seriousness, the darkness, the scariness kind of out of the serious readings that we can tend to get into. And again, it's just a deck that if I've had kind of a rough day and I don't want to go into 90s nostalgia, but I just want to play with a deck that's fun and that will make me smile from the cuteness, it is this deck. I do have the Northern Animal Tarot, which is also anthropomorphized animals, but something about this one, it's just a different style, and I appreciate them both. I love them both. Neither one is leaving anytime soon, but something about this one just, it's fun and it's funny, and I love it. So that is my Italian soda deck. And then the last deck that we will talk about is actually the one oracle that I will show you today. And this deck is the Herbal Tea deck, a deck that takes things down a notch or helps you unwind. So for me, that is my Song of the Grandmother's Oracle. Now, this is by Kara Simons and illustrated by Mari in the Sky, the creators of the Prairie Majesty Oracle and the Gentle Tarot, respectively. Both of those decks also could have gone with this one, but I decided to just focus on the Oracle. Now, the thing about this one is I also received so generously a prototype from Kara, and I did a whole walkthrough of that deck at the time, and I have absolutely just not stopped using it since I got it. But this deck is literal grandmother energy. It focuses on plants and animals, and there are some crystals and some earthly elements in this deck. Each card has a little haiku to kind of bring the message forward, and the full deck comes with a beautiful color-coded guidebook and gives lots of information for each card, and it's such a good book. Mari's illustrations are beautiful, so it's really, really hard not to just devour this deck every evening for a message. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that sometimes the grandmothers can't get a little harsh. In fact, there are a couple of grandmothers in here that kind of bring out a little bit of tough love. But again, it is only with your best in mind, and it is only to help you grow and to help you. And they love you no matter what. See, this is one example of it, is Grandmother Volcano, change. There's no turning back. What was once before, now not. Demarcation point. So like, the message is there, it's time. Things need to change, and the time is now. And that's it. So what are we going to do? And then here again, funny that we had Grandmother Lightning, so that is burst. Brilliant striking flash, illuminating bolt, brings sudden clarity. So it's kind of that that glimpse into what one could consider shadow work, or it's just the message that, things need to change, but it's all in love. And yeah, this deck gives you everything. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the deck. This is Grandmother Shark, and her message is ache. And it says, pain is a teacher, none of us excused from class. Greet the lesson. Stay. I mean, so powerful. The beautiful final finished product is incredible, and I do love it. But I also cannot stop using my prototype. So either way that you spin it, you cannot go wrong with this Song of the Grandmothers. It is a favorite of mine to pull, especially right before bed. My prototype actually lives by my bed, and I tend to pull a message from them then. So I think that is all. I am done talking your ear off now, but this has been the Coffeehouse Decks hashtag by Amidst the Grey. Again, I'll leave a link to the original video below. Please, I would love to see everybody else's tags and responses to this tag, rather. So I'll keep an eye out for all of y'all's. If you liked this video, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Give it a share. All those good things. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I love making new friends. But again, thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.